Listen carefully. For the next 30 minutes, allow yourself to enter a space where your mind meets the wisdom of Thoth. This is not just a story. It is a doorway, a moment suspended between what you know and what is waiting to emerge. What you will hear will challenge your habitual thinking, gently dissolve patterns you didn't even know were shaping your life, and awaken a quiet, profound understanding that something deeper always exists within you. Thoth speaks not to the ears, but to the mind and soul, nudging you to perceive reality with new eyes, to feel the pulse of creation flowing through your own inner chambers. This is an invitation, subtle yet urgent, to step closer to clarity, awareness, and presence. Take a deep breath now. As you listen, focus on this phrase: I am open to seeing beyond what I know. Write it down in the comments if it resonates, and let it anchor your experience. Becoming a member of this channel will give you access to these teachings in an ongoing, intimate way, a way to deepen your journey with Thoth every day. Join us and step into a space where understanding unfolds, like a river carving its path through stone. From the first moment, notice how easily the mind resists simplicity. You may feel tension as old beliefs rise to be observed. This resistance is natural. It is the protective layer of conditioned thinking, the inherited structure of collective mental patterns. Thoth teaches that these are not obstacles, but signposts. They show where your attention has been trapped, and by observing them, you can begin to reclaim the clarity that has always been your birthright. Imagine a quiet chamber inside yourself, where every thought is a symbol, every hesitation a mirror, and every sensation a message. The key is to witness without judgment, letting images and insights surface naturally. Consider how your daily life often moves on autopilot, guided by invisible scripts. You wake, perform, consume, react, repeat. Thoth invites you to pause within this cycle. Even a single moment of conscious noticing is a spark of awakening. He whispers through your awareness. Patterns are not you. They are inherited codes, not your essence. Each observation, no matter how small, chips away at the weight of unconscious repetition. As you breathe, feel the subtle distinction between the automatic and the aware. Let curiosity become your compass, guiding you deeper into understanding yourself as a conscious participant in your reality. The mind often clings to complexity, believing depth is only in the intricate. Thoth reveals the paradox. Truth often arrives in simplicity. Symbols, archetypes, and images carry wisdom beyond words. Notice how a single symbol, a line, a thought, can open a doorway to insight that no prolonged reasoning could reach. This is the language of the mind's higher layers, intuitive, immediate, and resonant. Practice by observing your environment or a thought with full attention. See it as if you are seeing it for the first time. Each act of mindful seeing aligns you closer with Thoth's teachings, sharpening perception and illuminating what is usually overlooked. Time itself is felt differently here. 30 minutes may seem brief, yet within this window the mind can traverse centuries of understanding. Thoth emphasizes the power of intentional attention. You are not merely listening. You are entering a dialogue with memory, archetype, and symbol. Each sound, pause, and phrase is a thread woven into the fabric of your inner consciousness. Allow yourself to sense the subtle shifts, the openings, the quiet sparks that arise. These are not dramatic epiphanies, but gentle awakenings, guiding you toward deeper harmony with yourself and the world around you. Notice the subtle tension between knowing and experiencing. The intellect wants to categorize, to label, to control. Thoth encourages releasing this need, instead allowing the mind to experience its own movement. Thoughts, emotions, and images arise and fade like clouds across a sky of awareness. Watch them without interference. In this observing, your inner landscape becomes visible. Patterns previously hidden in the background emerge into light, revealing their structure and offering choice where once there was unconscious repetition. This simple act of witnessing transforms how energy flows within your psyche, creating subtle but profound shifts. Symbols of Thoth carry the weight of memory and the potential of transformation. Every word you hear or visualize is a seed. Plant it in your consciousness and allow it to grow. Notice which images feel alive and which feel foreign. Thoth teaches that the mind itself is a temple, and each insight is a key to unlocking its sacred chambers. When you feel a surge of understanding, even quietly, pause and anchor it. These small integrations accumulate, quietly reshaping the internal architecture of thought and perception. Patterns of thinking are not permanent. They are inherited, habitual, and, most importantly, observable. Thoth emphasizes observation without judgment. As you notice these mental loops, a space opens between the pattern and the observer. In this space, you find freedom. The very act of noticing transforms repetition into awareness. Each moment you practice this, the mind's automatic responses become choices, conscious and deliberate, rather than inherited habits. Imagine stepping out of the flow for just a breath. That is where real insight begins. As you continue, ask yourself, where does thought end and knowing begin? Thoth's wisdom often resides in these liminal spaces between what is said and what is felt, between the habitual and the conscious. Allow yourself to dwell in uncertainty, letting curiosity replace the need for immediate answers. Each question is a lantern, illuminating hidden corners of your consciousness. Notice the subtle expansion of perception as you let go of certainty, feeling the mind stretch in ways that logic alone cannot achieve. This expansion is not flashy. It is quiet, persistent, and transformative over time. The heart of Thoth's teaching is the integration of observation and imagination. Symbols and images are not abstract. They are bridges between consciousness and deeper memory. Engage with them freely, allowing them to shift and morph as you observe. This practice strengthens mental flexibility and enhances the capacity to perceive life's subtle connections. When you notice a recurring thought or sensation, ask silently, what is this trying to reveal? The answer often comes not in words, but in shifts of feeling, intuition, and clarity. These micro-experiences accumulate, building a framework for profound personal insight. Now consider how time, thought, and perception intertwine. Thoth invites awareness of cycles, not of days or months, but cycles of consciousness. Every thought, image, and sensation repeats in subtle ways. By observing without interference, you start to discern patterns, noticing the rhythm of your own mind. This awareness cultivates an inner calm, a mental clarity that allows choices to emerge from insight rather than habit. You begin to feel the pulse of consciousness itself, an invisible current that carries understanding when the mind is quiet and receptive. Attention is your most potent tool. Thoth teaches that even brief, consistent observation reshapes neural pathways, creating room for insight, intuition, and presence. This is not a promise of instant change, but an invitation to cultivate a living dialogue with your own inner world. As you listen, notice what naturally draws your attention and what resists. Both are important. The attraction reveals resonance. The resistance highlights areas for deeper reflection. Each observation is a step on a path toward expanded awareness and mental clarity. The mind often fears emptiness, mistaking stillness for lack. Thoth guides you to embrace silence, to allow spaces between thoughts to be noticed, valued, and explored. In these gaps, insight emerges without effort. Imagine each pause as a window into the underlying structure of your consciousness, a place where old assumptions can be examined and released. Regular practice of noticing these spaces fosters an inner resilience and a capacity to navigate life with calmness and clarity. Memory and imagination are allies. Thoth's teachings encourage using mental images as tools for exploration. Visualize a symbol or a line. Allow it to unfold in your mind. Observe how it moves and changes. These images act as keys, unlocking insights beyond ordinary reasoning. The process is simple. Watch, notice, reflect, integrate. Over time, these moments of engagement cultivate a sense of coherence within the mind, aligning conscious choice with deeper intuition. Every insight is a mirror, reflecting both what is familiar and what is hidden. Thoth emphasizes reflection without judgment. Observe the impulses, emotions, and images that arise. Each one contains information, guiding you toward a fuller understanding of your own consciousness. By practicing this reflective awareness, you develop a capacity to notice subtle shifts in perception, creating internal space for more thoughtful, deliberate responses to life's challenges. The simplest acts can be transformative. Observing a thought, noticing a sensation, or reflecting on a symbol may feel trivial, yet these small moments accumulate, gradually transforming the way consciousness operates. Thoth's wisdom is not in dramatic revelation, but in repeated, subtle engagement with your own mind. Each attentive moment strengthens the ability to navigate life with clarity, insight, and inner calm. The process is cumulative, invisible at first, yet profoundly influential over time. Awareness is both practice and presence. Thoth encourages a gentle but persistent attention to the flow of thoughts, images, and sensations. This attention is not analytical, it is experiential, intimate, and observing. As you cultivate it, you begin to sense connections and patterns previously unnoticed. Insight arises not as an event but as a process, gradually illuminating the contours of your inner landscape. Each listening moment deepens your understanding, revealing the mind's hidden architecture and the freedom inherent within conscious observation. Symbols and mental images are more than representations. They are living keys. Thoth teaches that each carries potential for insight and transformation. When you encounter a recurring image or phrase, pause and explore it. Ask, what does this reveal about my mind, my perceptions, my patterns? The answer often comes quietly, as a shift in understanding or an expansion of awareness. Over time, these encounters cultivate an inner clarity and sensitivity, enabling more conscious engagement with life and its subtle rhythms. The journey through observation, reflection, and symbolic engagement is ongoing. There is no final destination, only continuous unfolding. Thoth's guidance is subtle. Stay attentive, remain curious, and allow understanding to emerge in its own time. By practicing mindful listening and observation, you begin to discern the difference between inherited mental patterns and the clarity of conscious thought. This discernment fosters resilience, insight, and a deeper connection to the flow of existence itself. Your mind is a living landscape, ever-shifting and responsive. Thoth's wisdom reminds you that even small moments of attention create openings for insight. Observe your habitual thoughts, notice your reactions, and allow symbols and images to speak to you. Each moment of attentive awareness expands your capacity to perceive, understand, and engage with life in more conscious and meaningful ways. The accumulation of these moments gradually rewires perception, shaping a more responsive, flexible, and aware mind. Now, as you continue to listen, consider the subtle shifts you are experiencing. What is arising within your consciousness that you hadn't noticed before? Where do patterns loosen and new connections appear? Thoth encourages this reflective engagement, emphasizing that awareness itself is the gateway to transformation. Every moment of observation, every subtle insight, contributes to an ongoing process of mental and spiritual refinement, opening doors to greater understanding and deeper clarity. Pause for a moment and feel your attention deepen. The 30 minutes are not merely a time frame, they are a portal, a condensed space for observation and reflection. Allow the mind to move naturally through thoughts and symbols, observing without interference. This practice cultivates presence, sharpens perception, and strengthens the capacity to navigate internal landscapes with awareness. Thoth's guidance is always gentle, persistent, and aligned with the natural unfolding of consciousness. Observe now how your awareness itself shifts. What once seemed automatic now reveals subtle patterns. Symbols, images, and thoughts begin to communicate meaning beyond the ordinary. Thoth teaches that through consistent observation and reflection, the mind begins to align with deeper currents of understanding. This alignment is subtle yet profound, fostering a sense of coherence, clarity, and connection that is experienced rather than conceptualized. The process continues as awareness deepens. Each thought, each image, each sensation is a doorway to insight. Thoth emphasizes patience, curiosity, and consistent practice. The mind unfolds gradually, revealing its own structure, rhythm, and intelligence. By maintaining attentive observation and engagement, you nurture the inner capacity for discernment, clarity, and conscious choice. This ongoing practice cultivates a presence that is calm, responsive, and deeply attuned to the flow of awareness itself. Notice the patterns that surface in your daily life. How do you react to stimuli? How do thoughts arise and fade? Thoth teaches that these observations, when repeated, foster a gentle mastery of attention. You do not control the mind forcibly. You guide it through awareness, reflection, and symbolic engagement. Each small act accumulates, gradually shaping a mental and emotional landscape that is more responsive, clear, and aligned with conscious intention. As you continue listening, reflect on what has already begun to shift within you. Subtle changes, gentle insights, and quiet recognitions are the hallmarks of this work. Thoth emphasizes that the depth of transformation lies not in dramatic events, but in continuous, attentive engagement with the mind's natural movements. By cultivating this practice, you create a foundation for enduring clarity, insight, and conscious alignment with your own inner wisdom. Every symbol, phrase, and thought you encounter in this practice is a thread. Weaving them together, you begin to construct a tapestry of awareness, perception, and insight. Thoth encourages patience and gentle persistence. Each thread contributes to a broader understanding, connecting the individual moments of observation into a coherent, flowing experience of consciousness. The process is subtle, ongoing, and infinitely expandable. Keep your attention open. Thoth teaches that awareness is a living process, one that unfolds in response to consistent observation and reflection. Continue to notice, reflect, and integrate. Each moment of listening deepens your capacity to perceive, understand, and engage with your inner world. In this unfolding, the mind aligns with its own deeper intelligence, opening doors to insights that were previously inaccessible. And now, as the journey continues, pause to feel the subtle shifts of awareness. What arises when you let go of expectation and simply observe? Thoth's teachings reveal that in this attentive stillness, insight emerges naturally. Every thought, every image, every subtle sensation is a guide, offering information about the structures, habits, and potentials of your own consciousness. Each moment of attentive awareness accumulates, gradually expanding perception, understanding, and inner clarity. The mind often believes understanding comes from accumulation, more facts, more experiences, more effort. Thoth suggests a subtle inversion. Less can reveal more. By focusing on the quality of attention rather than quantity of knowledge, you allow subtle structures of awareness to unfold. Imagine a single line in a text revealing a map of your inner terrain. The ordinary mind misses it, but a small deliberate pause exposes patterns that have been operating invisibly. You begin to realize that depth is rarely loud. It is quiet, concentrated, and precise. Observation itself becomes an act of transformation, where even the most mundane thought carries hidden resonance. Patterns of expectation shape perception more than external reality. As you continue listening, notice the subtle impulses in your awareness. Each is a pointer to unobserved dynamics within your own mind. Thoth invites you to approach them not as obstacles, but as messages. When you catch a habitual response arising instead of reacting, examine its texture, rhythm, and coloration. This attention is not judgment. It is the recognition of inner mechanics. The very act of noticing loosens unconscious grip, letting consciousness breathe in spaces previously crowded with automatic repetition. Small moments of mindful observation accumulate, subtly redefining your inner landscape. Time is not linear here. Perception of duration shifts as you sink deeper into attentive listening. Thoth teaches that each moment holds infinite layers, a fractal of consciousness. Within these layers, insight may appear as an image, a fleeting thought, or an intuitive understanding. Resist the urge to categorize. Let it arrive in its own form. The mind's desire for structure is a filter, and by relaxing this compulsion, you allow unexpected clarity to emerge. This is not mystical but practical. By letting go of conventional expectations, consciousness finds its natural flow, revealing what was always present but unnoticed. Emotions carry encoded intelligence, often dismissed or suppressed. They are essential markers of inner dynamics. Thoth encourages you to feel them fully, not to control or change them, but to trace their origin, texture, and trajectory. Each emotion, when observed without attachment, offers insight into the mind's habitual pathways. By mapping these currents, you discover an unseen architecture of thought and feeling. Awareness of this architecture cultivates a capacity to navigate life with precision, using internal intelligence rather than external compulsion. The practice is subtle, yet profoundly altering over time. Simplicity is deceptive. The mind assumes complexity equals depth, but Thoth's guidance reveals otherwise. A single phrase, a quiet image, or a small insight can act as a key to vast internal shifts. These moments are often overlooked because they appear ordinary. Yet, the ordinary is the gateway. In noticing it, consciousness recognizes its own capacity for understanding. Your attention becomes the instrument of transformation. Each micro-observation expands perceptual range, revealing that insight is not a distant achievement, but a present capacity, waiting for precise recognition. Memory is an active canvas. Thoth teaches that recollection is not passive recall, but dynamic engagement. Past experiences, sensations, and images can be re-examined through conscious observation. When approached with subtle attention, memory reveals patterns, inconsistencies, and connections invisible to ordinary reflection. Each insight gained from memory reshapes perception, subtly modifying how present experience is filtered and interpreted. The mind, when engaged in this way, becomes both receptive and discerning, capable of reorganizing itself with elegance and efficiency. Language itself contains power. Words are more than labels. They are carriers of structure and resonance. Thoth highlights the impact of subtle phrasing and attentive listening. When a word is observed, felt, and traced to its internal echo, it shifts the architecture of thought. You begin to perceive layers beneath literal meaning: the tonal, the symbolic, the resonant. These are not mere abstractions, but practical tools for engaging consciousness. Observing how words resonate within you transforms language into an instrument of insight and subtle recalibration of perception. Awareness of breath is a portal. Each inhalation and exhalation is an anchor, yet also a guide to internal dynamics. Thoth emphasizes that subtle observation of breath reveals the interplay of tension, release, and presence. By tracking its rhythm without interference, the mind begins to attune to its own flows. Awareness moves from intellectual to somatic, bridging thought and experience. This is a quiet, precise recalibration that primes the psyche for deeper perception. The breath becomes both mirror and map, reflecting the underlying state of consciousness with clarity. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when examined attentively. Objects, thoughts, and sensations reveal hidden layers when approached with subtle presence. Thoth's guidance suggests that perception itself is a living system. By observing what is often ignored, you begin to discern patterns, rhythms, and connections that normally escape attention. Conscious engagement with memory and imagination cultivates clarity, subtlety, and flexibility in perception, expanding the mind's capacity to integrate experience with awareness. The mind operates as a layered ecosystem. Thoth highlights that each layer, cognitive, emotional, symbolic, interacts dynamically. Observing these interactions uncovers feedback loops, latent potentials, and subtle patterns. Awareness acts as both lens and instrument, allowing insight to emerge organically. Each observation reorganizes internal dynamics, producing micro-adjustments in perception, attention, and response. This ecosystem perspective transforms habitual mental functioning into a responsive, self-correcting structure capable of subtle adaptation. Precision in observation is transformative. Thoth teaches that each exacting moment of attention subtly alters neural and mental structures. Noticing detail, rhythm, and pattern produces shifts in perception that accumulate over time. Awareness becomes a finely tuned instrument, capable of perceiving previously invisible structures. These adjustments are not dramatic but profound, creating the conditions for deep internal recalibration. Each act of precise noticing is a micro-practice of consciousness itself, cultivating discernment, clarity, and subtle mastery over internal dynamics. Silence is not absence, but presence. Thoth emphasizes that noticing spaces between thoughts reveals latent dynamics and structures. These gaps are not empty, they are repositories of potential insight. Attending to them without expectation allows perception to extend beyond habitual frameworks. Awareness in silence functions as a lens, revealing layers of cognition, emotion, and sensation previously unnoticed. These observations cultivate subtle understanding and refine internal coherence, showing that transformation often resides in what is unspoken and unseen. Curiosity directed with precision is a tool of insight. Thoth highlights that intentional inquiry illuminates structures and patterns otherwise invisible. Each subtle question probes the internal field, revealing habitual responses, latent tendencies, and emerging awareness. Curiosity applied in this way fosters discernment, subtle mastery of attention, and increased sensitivity to internal dynamics. The mind becomes both observer and participant, continuously refining perception and deepening engagement with the hidden architecture of consciousness. Integration is subtle yet cumulative. Thoth teaches that noticing, observing, and reflecting interweave into a network of insight. Each micro-adjustment, each attentive moment, reinforces perception, awareness, and internal coherence. Transformation is not sudden but gradual, occurring as consciousness reorganizes around observation, insight, and subtle recognition. This process is not abstract. It informs experience directly, aligning thought, perception, and emotion with deeper patterns of awareness, fostering a coherent, responsive, and expansive mind. Resistance is not obstacle, but signal. Thoth emphasizes that noticing hesitation or tension reveals where latent structures operate. Observation of resistance without judgment allows subtle redirection of attention and internal recalibration. Each encounter offers information, showing where habitual patterns dominate perception and where conscious insight can emerge. This process cultivates subtle mastery over mental dynamics, refining awareness and strengthening capacity for deliberate, precise engagement with consciousness. Now, as your focus deepens, consider which habitual impressions are loosening as attention sharpens. Where do subtle patterns begin to reveal themselves? What emerges when expectation and judgment recede, leaving only precise, attentive observation? The mind recognizes the subtle threads woven throughout thought and awareness. Even the smallest observation becomes a spark that shifts perception, revealing what has always existed beneath habitual patterns. Listening, attending, and noting without expectation creates an inner alignment that carries resonance far beyond the moment. Patterns emerge in silence. Connections appear between memory, feeling, and intuition, and the observer finds that consciousness itself responds with clarity and precision. This is the essence of engagement, subtle, immediate, and quietly transformative.